Late breaking moos. James, something's come in from an unknown source
Oh, crap.
that potentially there's other sports things coming too across the pond sports. Get it right, Kerry. It's a mouthful, I've got to say. Um, so are there other things in the future? Because you've already got 7. Like, let's be honest now, you've got a lot of, it's starting to branch out. You've just hit golf, right?
Yeah, we just hit golf
Yeah.
with Sinead and Logan. That has taken off and been a massive success straight from the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
The other podcast that we launched, a lot of them, like most podcasts, were slow burns and built an audience over time. But the golf has just like been popular from the get go. Some of that has to do with the hosts.
Yeah.
Sinead is like a golf influencer, so she has a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
that are interested in what she's doing anyway. Logan is a former pro, so like he's got a lot of connections in that world. But they've both been awesome. But
Mm-hmm.
we do have a lot on the go, and a lot of plans. We're actually working on our plans for 2022 right now. There's
Mm.
talk of rugby,
Oh.
talk of motorsport,
Mm.
talk of uh, so much. Also, as well, I think one thing that we want to do is be a bit more diverse in
Yep.
terms of what we're doing. So maybe not just doing podcasts,
Oh.
but in terms of our website,
Mm.
just now you can find out all about the hosts, what guests we've got coming up. You can even listen to the podcast. But what we want to do is have some like articles in there, like some actual written content as well.
That's a good
I think
idea.
really important, and trying to build ourselves up fully,
Mm.
and then long term goal. I wrote this memo, or as Jerry Maguire would say it, mission statement
Mm-hmm.
last week, and I sent out to the guys and said, "Look, this is our goals. This is where I want to be." And the last two, and I said in big brackets and big capital words, I said, like this is like distant like
Mm-hmm.
goals. I'd love to have a transatlantic 24-hour sports news channel where we
Oh.
cover all of the sports
Mm-hmm.
from both sides of the pond that
Yeah.
we are then able to kind of shape depending on what
Mm-hmm.
time of the day it is.
Yep.
So just now, like the UK has Sky Sports News, which is
Mm-hmm.
24 hours news, and at the moment, obviously it's mostly Premier League, it's cricket, it's rugby, and all that kind of stuff, and they just kind of sometimes it just feels like a bit of a loop. Whereas
Yep.
my plan would be that because of the time of day, because you're doing it judged on the time of day. So if it's
Mm.
prime time in the west coast of the states, you're going to have American football, you're going to have basketball, you have NHL. Whereas if it's prime time in the UK, you're going to then concentrate more on Premier League, on tennis, cricket, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So
That
that
makes
that's the
sense.
long term goal. That is a goal that's probably a while off. But
Mm-hmm.
having talked to people, um, it's actually not that unachievable. It is
Yeah.
achievable, but it just takes a lot of legwork, and I think I think we have to prove ourselves first as a sports network and what we're
Yep.
doing. So that's why we have the podcasts and
Mm-hmm.
building more into them, and that's why we're going to have kind of more written content on the website as well, so we can build up. And I think that's what I've done since I started. I've just built up
Yeah.
slowly. Nothing's rushed. Everything's been natural. People that have come to me and said, "Oh, have you thought about doing this podcast?" Yeah, let's do it. Like Logan, for example, the golf.
Mm-hmm.
Logan was in a clubhouse room and he says to me, "Oh, if you ever do an episode on like golf, let me know and I'll come and help out." I was like,
Yep.
"Well, why don't you just do a podcast?" And he was like, "Yeah, I could do a podcast." Like, cool. We'll get you a co-host. I got in touch with
Yeah.
Sinead. Sinead was like, "Oh, I've always wanted to do a podcast." Bing bang
Cool.
bosh, you've got Across the Pond Golf podcast. So
So
yeah,
James, I've got some suggestions for you. Okay, so first there's the Olympics. So I think that definitely, and
that's
not
come
saying
up.
that needs, yep, not that that needs its own show necessarily, but it could fall under a banner of the general sports one. So let's go for Olympics. I think you've probably got things like cricket. There's lawn bowls. what else is there? Oh, ping pong, table tennis. That's huge. Table tennis is huge. Then you've got trying to think of what's that one at the beach with the volleyball? You know, like the beach volleyball. That's huge in the
Volleyball.
States. Yeah. What's that? But yeah, I reckon we could start a list for you, and then maybe start playing. Oh my god, do you follow the darts? The dart tournaments on. Oh
I
my
do.
god.
It's big in the UK. It even has its
Oh,
own sports channel, to be fair.
oh, it's
But yeah,
massive, massive.
it
Anyway,
is
we'll.
popular.
I think we could start a list, and then each maybe a couple of months or something, pick one and get it out there. Or you could even say, you know what, next year I'll do three. So you could pick like three top ones that you're gonna. Because I'm just building your network here, by the way. So
Yeah,
bad
yeah,
luck
brilliant.
if you
Thanks.
wanted to keep it at seven, you've got no hope because the whole community's like out there going, yes, James, do this. Yes, James, do this because you've got the potential. It's super cool. I'm so excited.
It's massive, and like the Olympics obviously did come up because of Tokyo, along with the Paralympics. As
Oh
I was
yes.
contacted and said, "Would you do a Paralympics?" Now, because of time it take to set up, and what I do and have been able and slightly successful so far is when we started the NFL podcast, I wrote to the NFL and applied for media membership,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can get like all the kind of press releases and statements and everything else. And, it took a year, but we
Yeah.
finally got it. We now have access to everything, all the logos, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and obviously, we're trying to do the same with the NBA, the MLB, and all the rest of it. But um, the Olympics, it was too short a time period to kind of go and ask them for that kind of access. Obviously, everything was being done remotely anyway, which
Mm.
would have worked in our favor, but
Yep.
just in terms of trying to get media access would have been too short a time scale for what they look for.
Mhm.
So it's definitely on the plan. Commonwealth Games as well,
Yes,
because
thank you. Yeah.
obviously, like Australia, UK.
Mhm.
Last time I used to play basketball, so I'm going to give my boy Craig Nichola a shout out, and Beveridge, Rob Beveridge, out in Australia because he was the head coach of Scotland
Yes.
at the Commonwealth Games, and Craig and Rob got us to, I think it was the semi-finals of the
Oh,
Commonwealth Games for basketball. We
yeah.
beat teams like England. We hadn't beat England since like the 70s. So there was a lot of excitement in Scotland about the last
Mhm.
Commonwealth Games, and the next
Mm.
ones are in Birmingham next year.
Mm.
So hopefully we can build upon what we did. I think it was the Gold Coast we were on last time, wasn't it, for the
Yeah.
Commonwealth
Yeah.
Games? Yeah. So
Definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully we
Awesome.
can do more of the same.
Oh, watch this space, people. Watch this space. Telling you right now.